Let me record. Done. Let me share the screen. Okay. So having access on some resources, you can call it as a authorization, right? So now you are a Windows admin. Imagine you are a Windows admin. You are authorized to use that server room. You are authorized person to use that server room. So that means you cannot directly open the door and you can enter inside the room, right? Right? There is a security method, right? Either you have to scan your ID card, or you have to give the biometric, or you have to enter the PIN. Agree? Right, guys? That is
Yes,
called
sir.
authentication. Process of verifying the username and password. Process of verifying the username and password is called authentication. Yes, authentication. So we have two types of authentications. Authentication means the process of verifying whether this user is correct user or not, whether he gave proper password or not. That is called authentication. See, guys, if you are having a Gmail account, that is called authorization. You are authorized to use Gmail account. While using the Gmail account, you have to give username and password, right? The process of logging inside the Gmail account is called authentication. Is it clear? Process of giving username and password is called authentication. Having access on some resources is called authorization. Is it clear difference between authorization and authentication?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's why we got authorization. Here authentication, you can see two types of authentications. Authentication means how you are going to enter inside my SQL server in two ways. What is the ways? Windows authentication means using Windows credentials. SQL Server authentication means using separate SQL credentials. Okay, so it's not mandatory that if I want to connect, if any user wants to connect to the SQL Server, it's not mandatory that he is only able to connect to the SQL Server using Windows authentication. It's not mandatory. It's not mandatory that he should be a member of Windows machine. It's not mandatory, guys. If you see this diagram, don't think only if I want to connect to the SQL Server, everyone has to log into the Windows machine. No, it's not mandatory. You can use SQL authentication also. Like other persons from outside, directly they can connect to the database. They don't access the Windows server in that case. We have two ways. One is first go to the Windows machine, then connect to the SQL server. If your login is there inside SQL server. There is one more way, that is SQL authentication. Means what? Outside people directly can connect to my SQL server without logging to the Windows machine. That is called SQL authentication. Okay. Chalo, let's explain the SQL authentication. Okay. So this is the one. Imagine some developers wants to connect to my SQL server, guys. Some developers wants to connect to my SQL server. Okay. Done. This is developer laptop. What developer will do, you know? User. Imagine, this is the developer. This guy is the developer, guys. Okay. So this developer directly SSMS will be installed in his laptop, guys. Management Studio will be installed in his laptop. Who will install? Windows team or support, IT support team will be there. They will install only SSMS. Guys, I told you, right? SSMS is a client, just a client to connect to the SQL server. Don't think if SSMS is there means SQL server is installed. No, SSMS is just a tool to connect to the SQL server. Okay. So this guy is a developer or user. He will open SSMS in his laptop like this. Once he logged into his laptop, he will open SSMS. Okay. And then he is going to give this name, guys. Okay. What is the instance name? Azure. Let me copy this. Okay. And then in the SSMS screen, he will give the Windows SQL Server instance name. The instance name is, let me copy paste here, Madhu Azure, right? This is the instance name. Z. The text. Done. Okay. So this is my instance name. Once developer opens the SSMS like this, I'm just giving the example. Here, the developer will give the instance name like this, and he is not going to choose Windows authentication. Windows authentication means he has to log into the Windows machine. Now he is not logged into the Windows machine. He is logged into the SQL server from his SSMS. So he has to choose SQL authentication. Now he has to give his username and password. Imagine Divya, okay, is the user, and you have to give the password for Divya. Imagine something password is there for Divya, password for Divya. Again, the concept is same, guys. Of course, you will get the error. Why? Because Divya is not present inside the SQL server. This is very common. And one more thing is, this instance is there in one another Windows machine. So there is no communication between my local laptop and that instance, guys. The simple perfect live example is the server. Okay, the server which is hosting the SQL server is there in the UK or some other data center. Okay, there is no communication between my laptop and that particular data center. Of course, I'm unable to connect. For that, I have to enable some other access, guys. But listen carefully. Okay, here Divya has to give the instance name. Divya has to choose authentication. And while installing SQL Server, not installing, after installation of SQL Server, we'll create a separate login for Divya. Divya manager will ask us, hey, Divya is our employee, so she has to connect to these databases daily. Please give her necessary permissions. So what we'll do, we'll create a login for Divya. Same concept, guys, same concept. So once we created the login, then Divya is able to connect. But Divya cannot log into the Windows machine. Okay, whatever you can see here, Divya directly, she won't log into the Windows machine, guys. She will directly connect to the SQL server using her SSMS. Directly. Divya will directly connect to the SQL server using her SSMS. This is her SSMS. She will open SSMS in her laptop. Okay, then she will give this instance name in the SSMS section. And if Divya is already present inside the SQL server, Divya is already present inside the SQL server like this. Okay, then can Divya, now Divya can connect to my SQL server. Process is same, Windows login or SQL login. First of all, that login should present in the SQL server. In this list, Divya has to be presented first. Okay, in this list, let me connect to the Windows authentication. Same instance, Windows authentication. In this logins list, Divya has to be present, guys. First, Divya should be there in this list. Then only Divya can connect, okay, from anywhere. If it is a Windows login, you have to connect to the server using Windows credentials. If it is a SQL login, you have to connect to the SQL server using SQL credentials, guys. Means Divya, without touching the server, she can directly access the database, guys. This is called SQL authentication. Windows authentication means that person has to log into the Windows machine first. Then he has to open SSMS. Ankam has to open SSMS here, and then he has to, okay, he has to, 1 minute, 1 minute. Yes, Ankam has to open SSMS in the server, and then he has to connect to the SQL server. Okay, like this. First, he will connect to the SSMS, and then from SSMS to SQL server, he will connect. Right? So Ankam will connect directly log into the Windows machine, and there Ankam will open SSMS, then he will connect to the SQL server. But Divya, directly she will log into her laptop and she will open SSMS. She will give complete SQL server name and port number, okay, and port number, and then she is able to connect to the SQL server, guys. This is how the Windows login and SQL login is able to connect to the SQL servers, guys. Is it clear? Any doubts, any issues here? Please let me know. And if there is no difference between a SQL login and Windows login. Whatever permissions are there for Windows login, same permissions we can provide to SQL login also. But Windows login will have extra privileges in the Windows machine level. That's it. If I gave sysadmin to Ankam, Ankam can do anything in the SQL server. If I gave sysadmin to Divya, Divya can do anything in my SQL server. So once they both enter into the SQL server, there is no difference. If both have same permissions, there is no difference. If both have different permissions, there is a difference, guys. So only through connecting, there is a difference, guys, between Windows login and SQL login. Only while connecting, there is a difference between Windows login and SQL login. After, once they connected to the SQL server successfully, if both permissions are same, both can do same kind of activities, guys. There is no difference between Windows and SQL login in such scenario. While connecting, the way they are connecting is going to be different, guys. The way the Windows login is going to connect to the server is different. The way SQL login is going to connect to the server is different. But once they connected, both are same. Depends upon the permissions, they can access the SQL server. We can block Ankam also. Even though Ankam is a Windows level user, we cannot proceed whatever permissions, whatever actions he want to do, he cannot proceed. We have to again give the permissions, guys. Okay, so once both connected to the SQL server, there is no difference between Ankam and Divya, guys. Both are same once they enter into the SQL server. Is it clear, guys? Windows authentication.
Doubt.
Yes, please.
So how many people can connect to the
32,767. 32,767.
Okay, sir.
That magic number we have discussed it, right? 32,767 logins. These peoples we can call it as a login, guys. Divya is one login. Ankam is one login. These can be found
Sir,
under
at a time?
login list. At a time only.
At
Sir.
a time we can connect.
Yes. Okay. So these people you can connect. See, Divya should be there in this list. Ankam should be there in this list. Then only anyone wants to connect to this SQL server, they should be there in this list, guys. Otherwise, they cannot connect. The simple logic is in the SQL server, in the security, in the logins list, who are all there present inside this logins list, they only can connect to my SQL server. Other persons are not able to access or connect to my SQL server, guys. Is it clear? Any issues, any doubts, please?
Sir, one question, sir.
Please.
Sir, Windows server ki connect చేసేటప్పుడు ఇద్దరు మాత్రమే కనెక్ట్ చేయగలరు ఎట్ ఏ టైం.
Yes, for Windows server there is a limitation.
మనం ఖాళీగా అంటే ఆ టైంలో ఖాళీగా ఉండే బదులు SQL సర్వర్ అథెంటికేషన్ ద్వారా మనం కనెక్ట్ అయ్యి మనం వర్క్ చేసుకోవచ్చు కదా సార్?
No. See, if you are a Windows login, only you can connect through Windows authentication. If you are a SQL login, only you can use SQL authentication. Even though if you are a sysadmin in the SQL server level, don't think I can connect in both ways. We don't create both logins for you. Either SQL login will create or Windows login will create.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir.
In case if that is the case, you can take the permissions from the manager, and of course there is a chance. But generally that is not the structure in the organization.
అంటే ఎందుకు వెయిట్ చేయడం అంటే మనం
I can understand. In that case, see, you have to do Windows level activities, like you have to copy one file. Okay, if you are a SQL login, can you copy the files in the Windows level?
No sir, both permissions.
You should be Windows member, then only you can copy the files, right? So in the same way, two connections are active, right? So I will connect as a SQL login. That will work, but again extra login you have to create. One login with Windows authentication, one login with SQL authentication I have to create for you. But usually that will work, but usually that is not the process in the organization. We don't follow that process.
As a DBA, we are
yes, we are Windows logins only. Yes, as a DBS, we are all Windows admins only. Windows means Windows logins only, not Windows admins. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Is it clear, guys? At least some point. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir. But I have small doubts, sir.
Yes, please.
For SQL authentication, sir, means SQL authentication, we can restrict the permissions or utilize the database.
For any authentication, that's what we said. There is no difference between a Windows login and SQL login. We can restrict any login. Don't think Windows login has extra privileges and all. No, once he is inside the SQL server, there is no difference between a Windows login and SQL login. Both are same. You can restrict a Windows login, you can restrict a SQL login.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Only Windows login, the advantage is Windows level, he can do some works like copying the backup files, creating the folders, deleting the backup files for maintenance purpose and all. These things he can do in the Windows level. But once he's inside the SQL server, Windows login and Ankam and Divya both are same once they enter inside the SQL server. Okay, depends upon their permissions. If I gave sysadmin to Ankam, if I gave sysadmin to Divya, there is no difference between these two. Okay, so
Right, sir.
if you ask, is there any difference, means yes, there is a difference. Depends upon the permissions, there is a difference. If you give same permissions, there is no difference. If you give different permissions, there is a difference.
Exactly,
Okay.
sir.
Any
And
questions?
what are the
guys?
principles and securables, sir?
I'll tell you.
Principles and-
Once this is clear, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Whatever I committed, I'll tell you. Nothing to worry. Okay.
Sir,
Any questions? Yes, please.
sir, while installing SQL Server,
Hmm.
so we are adding that current user.
Yes, correct.
So that means that's a authorization process going there.
Yes. We are giving
But
access
after,
to that particular current user.
yes, sir, yes, sir. After install SQL Server, we are going to connect to login.
Yes, correct.
That is a
Whatever add current
authentication.
user option, yes, that's correct. Okay. See, authorization means having access on SQL server. Authentication means how you are connecting to the SQL server, either Windows authentication or SQL authentication. What way you are using to connect to the SQL server. That's it. There is no confusion here, guys. Okay.
Yes, sir. Here my doubt is while installing, we are adding current user. Can you add multiple users, sir?
Happily.
Who are
That's why
accessing
we have add button.
Okay.
We
okay,
have
sir.
to add also. Why? Because don't select only current user. Current user means it will allow you only, but we have to click add button. We have to add the whole DBA team. The SQL
Okay,
server
sir.
is not only for you, the whole DBA team. So you have to add the whole SQL DBA team there. Then only other persons also can connect to the SQL server. Otherwise, if you add current user after installation also, you can log into the SQL server. You can create new login for the whole SQL DBA team. That is also possible. This is also possible. I told you, right? Once you enter inside the room, you can allow others to come into. You can allow others to pull inside the room. You can by creating the logins and all. Okay.
Sir, thanks, sir.
Yeah. Okay, guys. If that is clear, let me explain two more terminologies. Okay.
Sir,
Login and principal. Yes, please.
sir, as the sir Windows user connect అవుతారు కదా SSMI దీంట్లో
Yes. Yes.
So
Mhm.
only for DBS can connect through Windows logins, but there are other users in Windows who are not working on this SQL server. So they can also connect them.
They can also
Sir,
connect to Windows machine or SQL server.
No, SQL server. Sir.
How? Tell me. First, tell me. Whatever we discussed it till 1.5 hours. Now tell me. Any person who can log into my Windows machine can connect to the SQL server or not? This is primary basic question. This question, the same question I have asked before discussing this topic. Now we did a 1 hour discussion on this topic. Now you're asking the same question. Now tell me, any person who can log into my Windows machine can connect to the SQL server. I want answer from you only. Yes or no? If yes, why? No, why? You have to tell me.
Okay, I got that login should be present in the SQL server.
Right?
Yes.
Agree? If it is there,
Yes.
he can connect. If he is not there,
Yes,
he
sir.
cannot connect.
Thank
That
you,
is
sir.
very basic. You cannot forget that basic. Anyone who can connect to my Windows machine cannot connect to the SQL server. The login should be there for him. Then only he can connect to the SQL server.
Yes.
I told you, even CEO also, if he can able to access my Windows machine, he cannot connect to the SQL server. Okay, so there should be a SQL login for or any login, SQL or Windows login. There should be a login in the SQL server. Yes. Okay,
Thank
nice.
you, sir.
Done, no problem. Okay, so what is principal and what is securable, guys? Principal and securables. Principal means who is accessing my resources, who can access my resources. is called principal. What resources he is accessing? He or she, that login is accessing. We'll call it as a login, guys. Login. Login might be he, login might be she. Anyone is login only. What resources login is accessing is called securable. Right? Guys, principal means who is connecting to my SQL server. You can call them as principals. Okay. And once they connected, what resources they are accessing? They are accessing the tables. They are accessing the databases. What resources they are accessing? Those are resources you can call it as a securables. They're accessing the stored procedures. What resources they are accessing? Those resources we can call it a securable. Who is accessing? Ankam is accessing. Ankam is a principal. Divya is a principal. Who is accessing the resources is called principals. Which resource he is accessing is called securables. Is it clear, guys? Very simple definition. There is no different meaning on that. Principal means who is accessing your SQL server is called principal. SQL server or resources, any resources. Who is accessing your resources, you can call it as a principal. Thank you.
Sir, both come under authorization only.
Yes, yes. See, that forget about authorization now. Authorization and authentication completely different. Okay, how you are accessing that is. Authorization means, authentication means how you are accessing. Authorization means having access on some resources. Okay, you are authorized to use the database. You are authorized to use the database. Yes, yes. Just 1 minute. You are authorized to use sales database. So now, what is your name, sir?
Sir, my name is Anand, sir.
Anand. You are authorized to use sales database. Okay, now tell me, guys, which one is principal, which one is securable?
Anand principal, sir.
Yes, Anand is
Sales
accessing
is-
sales database, right? So Anand is principal. What resources he is accessing? He is
Sales.
accessing a
Sales
database.
database.
So sales database is a securable. Okay, let's go like this. Ravati, okay, and she is accessing employee table. Now tell me, guys, which one is principal, which one is securable?
Revati is the principal, sir.
Okay,
Principal, employee is securable.
Employee is securable.
employee table is a securable. Which resource she is accessing, that is a securable. Okay, that might be a table, that might be a database, that might be an index, that might be a stored procedure, that might be anything. Okay, just 1 minute, guys, please. Hello, I'm here.
Store procedure. Hey, भैया जी, find the mask and order लगा लीजिए ना. हैं? अभी time है. సాగర మదనం మొదలవగానే మొదటి విషమే వచ్చింది.
Okay.
Subhani. Hello.
Sir, tell me, sir.
We have singers in our batch, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
My sons are trying to sing a song, sir. From they learn those songs from in their schooling from teachers, sir.
Okay. Okay, done. We have a small game, guys. Okay. You can play that game later. Okay. So I'll I'll play some videos. Okay. Without audio, you have to play the songs. Okay. Winners will be awarded with reward points. Okay, so
Okay, sir.
let's see how many of you are going to sing those songs. Not now, might be we'll plan on Saturday, something like that. Okay,
Okay, sir.
right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, yes. Okay, guys, is it clear? A principal and securable. Is it clear, guys? Principal and secure. Principal means who is accessing the resources. You can call them as a principal. What resources you are accessing, that resource you can call it as a securable, guys. Okay,
It's clear.
done. Okay, any questions you can ask me. Otherwise, we are good to close the session for today. It's already overloaded. I know security is somewhat overloaded concept, guys. So if it is okay, that's fine. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we are going to close the session for today, guys.
Sir, is there any remaining topics in security, sir?
Yeah, lot of just a basic discussion we have completed. Lot of things we'll discuss. What is login, what is user, okay, creating individual logins, creating a Windows login, creating a SQL login, creating a group login, okay, giving access. How can I give access to a particular database? How can I give access on a particular table? How can I add a person into the particular role? Okay, so lot of things we are going to discuss in security. Around 3 days we are going to discuss, guys, security concept. Today, right? Tomorrow and day after tomorrow we'll complete the security. In these 3 days we are going to complete the whole security, giving access on some databases, giving access on some tables. Okay, so what is server role, what is database role? Lot of things are there. What are orphan users? We'll discuss lot of things. Just a basic discussion today.
Also comes under login, sir.
Sorry, which login?
Server roles
Server roles,
also
yes.
comes
Server roles
under
also comes under
login, sir.
security, not login, security. It will comes under security.
Security. Okay.
Okay, guys.
What are
Any
the
questions?
credential?
Credentials are separate, guys. Proxy, if you create any proxies accounts and all, we have to create credentials. Okay, we don't use credentials concept. I told you, right? Don't think all the objects that we can see in the management studio that we are going to use as a DBS. We don't use it. Some concepts, some objects, we don't use it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Any doubts, please?
Sir, what is difference between the domain and the account, sir?
Forget about it. There is a separate discussion on it. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Any other questions?
Sir, error 40 is coming, sir, while logging the SQL authentication. That means that the user doesn't have the permissions or what, sir? Exactly.
See, error, see, if you are getting error 40 means that is different. If user doesn't have see here in this list, I don't have Divya, right? So let me connect using Divya to the SQL server. Of course, you will get the error, right? Let me connect using Divya. Okay, SQL server authentication. Sorry, SQL authentication. Here I'll give Divya name. Okay, I'll give some password. Actually, there is no Divya. I don't know the password of Divya also, but I am still trying to connect to the SQL server. See what error you will get. In case, see here, guys, if the login doesn't have permissions, if the login is not created, if the login is not authorized to connect to the server, in all the cases you will get error 18456 error. Security 18456 is a very famous error, guys. Sometimes you will get a question, how do troubleshoot 18456 error? In what and all cases we'll get this 18456 error, guys? If there is no login name, or if Divya login name is there but Divya is giving wrong password, okay, or what is the other case? There is no login, there is wrong password, or else if Divya is not authorized to use, login is there, password is there, but she is not authorized to connect to the database. In that case also you will get 18456 error. Okay, in all these cases you will get 18456 error, guys. Okay, so error party is different. That might be a network issue and all, something around like that. So that's why you are getting that error party. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, 18456. Remember this error, guys. We are going to discuss this error. Okay. Any questions? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Done. Okay. Chalo. Tomorrow we'll meet at 7 AM, guys. Okay. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. Bye all.
Thank you, sir. Wish you a very happy birthday.
Thank you, Ankum. Thank you.
So once again, many more
Thank you,
happy
sir.
returns of
Thank you
sir.
so much, everyone. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Any more?
Yeah, thank you, thank you. No, normal only. Regular office, regular classes, regular support. Yeah, guys. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye. We'll meet tomorrow at
Okay,
7
sir.
a.m.
Bye.
Bye.